The year is 1470. In the mountains of Thessaly, a bell rings one final time across a valley that will never hear it again. Inside the convent of St. Catherine, 23 women kneel in prayer. Their lips move in unison, forming words they've spoken every morning for years. But this morning, the words taste different, like ash, like goodbye. Outside the stone walls, the horizon bleeds red, not from sunrise, but from the banners of an empire that has already swallowed kingdoms whole. The Ottoman army doesn't march. It flows like a river of steel and fire, erasing everything in its path. Sister Eleni, the abbess, clutches a silver crucifix that has survived 3 generations. Her hands tremble, but not from fear. She knows what's coming. They all do. What they don't know, what no one could imagine, is that death would have been a mercy. Because what happened next wasn't written in any history book you studied in school. It was buried, erased, hidden beneath centuries of silence, until now. What the Ottomans did to these women wasn't just conquest. It was something far more calculated, something that historians are only now beginning to uncover. The question isn't whether you can handle the truth. It's whether you're willing to remember it. If you've ever wondered why certain stories vanish from history, while others are told again and again, you're in the right place. Here on Crimson Historians, we dig into the archives the world forgot, missionary letters, Ottoman state records, testimonies buried in Vatican vaults. Every view, every like, every subscription helps us pull one more voice out of the darkness. Now let's go back to that convent, because the bell has stopped ringing and the doors are about to break. To understand what happened to these nuns, you need to understand the machine that consumed them. 17 years earlier, in 1453, Constantinople had fallen, the jewel of Christendom, the city that had stood for over 1,000 years, gone in 53 days of cannon fire and blood. The Hagia Sophia, once the greatest cathedral in the world, was stripped of its crosses within hours of the conquest. Its mosaics were plastered over, its bells melted down. Within a week, the call to prayer echoed from its domes, where hymns had sung for 9 centuries. Sultan Mehmed II stood in the nave of that ancient church and declared it a mosque, not because he needed another place of worship, because he understood something most conquerors don't. You don't defeat a people by killing them. You defeat them by erasing who they were. The Ottomans didn't just conquer land, they conquered identity. When Mehmed looked west toward the scattered remnants of the Byzantine world, he saw wounds that refused to heal. Every church bell that still rang, every monastery that still stood, every cross casting shadows on conquered soil. These were declarations, acts of defiance, proof that the old world refused to die, and every nun who still prayed in Latin was a living reminder that faith could outlast armies. So the Sultan made a decision. If they will not convert, they will disappear, not through massacre. Massacre creates martyrs. Martyrs inspire resistance. Songs are written, stories are told, the dead become immortal. Number. The Ottomans had perfected something far more elegant, something that left no songs, no stories, no memory. Erasure. By 1470, this strategy had been tested across the empire. Greek monasteries in Morea, Serbian convents in the Balkans, Armenian churches in Anatolia. They didn't burn them all, they converted some, abandoned others. But the pattern was always the same. First came the offer, then came the silence. The convent of St. Catherine, perched on a hillside in Thessaly, far from any garrison or ally, was about to become another test case, another footnote in an empire's expansion. But these women didn't know they were footnotes. These weren't warriors. They were women who had spent their entire lives in silence and prayer. Their weapons were rosaries. Their armor was faith. Most of them had never seen a soldier, never held a blade, never imagined they would need to. Sister Eleni had been abbess for 12 years. Before that, she had tended the sick in a village that no longer existed, swallowed by plague in 1448. She came to the convent not to escape the world, but to make sense of it. Sister Magdalena was 19. She'd taken her vows only 2 years before. Her hands still bore the calluses from her father's farm. She joined the convent after her family was killed in a raid. The convent was the only place she had felt safe since. Sister Theodoris was 70. She had outlived 2 abbesses, an emperor, and more wars than she could count. She had stopped fearing death decades ago, but none of them had ever faced this. If this moment in history doesn't move you to learn more, you might be missing the lesson our ancestors died to teach. That the most dangerous thing you can do in the face of power is refuse to forget who you are. Now let's watch what happens when faith meets empire. The first cannonball hits just after dawn. It doesn't strike the chapel, it strikes the bell tower. The sound is apocalyptic. Stone explodes into the air. Iron shrieks against iron. The bell that has rung every morning for 140 years shatters mid-swing, and the pieces rain down onto the courtyard where the sisters grow herbs for healing. The same hands that tended those plants now cover their ears, trembling. Sister Eleni doesn't scream. She stands, crucifix raised high, and begins to sing. The Kyrie eleison, Lord have mercy. One by one the others join her, 23 voices rising against the roar of an empire. But empires don't listen to songs. By midday, the gates are breached. Ottoman soldiers pour into the courtyard, not with swords drawn, with ledgers, quills, ink pots. They move through the convent like clerks, not conquerors, counting, recording, cataloguing. Because to the Ottomans, these women aren't people, they're assets. A translator steps forward, a Greek man who once lived in these hills. His voice shakes as he reads from a scroll, and you can hear the shame buried in every word. By order of Sultan Mehmed II, all subjects of the conquered territories must submit to the authority of the Sublime Porte. Those who convert will be granted protection. Those who refuse will face the consequences of rebellion. Sister Eleni steps forward. Her face is calm, almost serene. She speaks not to the soldiers, but to the translator, in Greek so clear that everyone understands. Tell your sultan that we have already given our lives to a king. We have nothing left to surrender. The officer in charge, a man named Hassan Pasha, whose name appears in Ottoman military records from the 1470 Thessalian campaign, doesn't respond with anger. He responds with something far more chilling, a smile, because he knows something the nuns don't yet understand. The Ottomans have perfected the art of breaking people without killing them. That night, the women are locked inside their own chapel. No food, no water, just darkness and the sound of soldiers outside, laughing, eating, living, while they wait to see who breaks first. 2 sisters, younger ones from Corinth, begin to weep in the corner. Their sobs echo off the stone walls. But Sister Magdalena, barely 20 years old, begins to whisper a psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Then another. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Then another. And slowly the weeping stops. This is the moment the Ottomans underestimated them. These women had spent their entire lives preparing for suffering. Fasting, vigils in the cold, hours of silence, submission to something greater than themselves. What the soldiers saw as torture, the nuns saw as their daily discipline. But Hassan Pasha is patient. He has seen this before. In Morea, in Wallachia, in the ruins of Serbian monasteries, where monks thought their faith would save them. Faith is like a candle, he once wrote in a letter to the Sultan, still preserved in the Topkapi Palace archives. It burns brightest just before it dies. He's about to test that theory. On the second day, the doors open. A servant enters with bread and water. Real food, clean water. He sets it down without a word and leaves. The nuns stare at it. Their throats are dry, their stomachs hollow. The younger sisters look to Eleni, desperation in their eyes. Sister Theodoris, the eldest, speaks first. They want us to take it, to feel gratitude, to soften. Eleni nods. Then we fast. They don't touch the food. By the 3rd day, their lips are cracked and bleeding. Their hands shake. The younger sisters can barely stand. but they don't break. Hassan Pasha watches from the courtyard, arms crossed. He's impressed, frustrated, and perhaps just for a moment, something close to respect flickers across his face. But respect doesn't change strategy. On the third day, the doors open again. This time it's not a servant, it's Hassan himself. He speaks in Turkish and the translator follows behind him like a shadow. You are not criminals, you are not enemies, you are simply mistaken. The Sultan is merciful. He offers you new lives, new names, protection. All you must do is speak the words. Silence. Or you can come with us to Constantinople. There the Sultan himself will hear your case. Perhaps he will be moved by your conviction. He pauses, lets the words settle, but the road is long, and the weak do not survive it. It's not a threat, it's a promise. Sister Eleni looks at her sisters. Some are barely conscious. Some are praying with their eyes closed. Some are staring at the floor, trying to find strength in the stone. She turns back to Hassan. We will walk. The smile returns to his face. Good. We leave at dawn. That night the nuns hold each other in the darkness. No one speaks. But Sister Magdalena begins to hum. Softly, a hymn they sang at Vespers. One by one the others join her. Outside the soldiers hear it. Some of them pause. Some of them look away. One of them, years later, will tell his grandson about the women who sang themselves to death. But that story will be forgotten too. For now the hymn rises through the cracks in the chapel walls and drifts out into the night. A prayer, a plea, a declaration. We are still here.